We hear in the letter to the Hebrews today, there's debate about the old covenant, the new covenant. Does the new covenant mean that everything that came before it should be destroyed? There is a new covenant which replaces the old covenant. But this was one of the great tensions for the early Christian community. Were they to remain Jewish? Were they to bring many of the Jewish customs with them? Were they just to start anew? And at times, I've talked about this in other contexts as well, at times it's quite common to hear people to say, oh, I'm a New Testament Christian. I like the New Testament, I don't like what happens in the Old Testament. It's almost this inherent nastiness about the Old Testament, perhaps a misunderstanding of the Old Testament. The New Testament, though, cannot be understood without the context that it came in. The new covenant can't be understood unless we understand the old covenant. We can't understand Jesus Christ unless we understand Jesus Christ first and foremost as being Jewish. All of the early Christians were Jewish until Paul then went and started to preach to the pagans. And so the new covenant is founded upon the old covenant. Yes, this letter to the Hebrews ends by saying this. By speaking of a new covenant, he implies that the first one is already old. Now, anything old only gets more antiquated until in the end it disappears. In the end it disappears. But that doesn't mean that it disappears immediately. We can learn from the Jewish people. Even today we can learn from the Jewish people. We should, if we're able to, develop relationships, friendships with Jewish people, because it'll help us to understand what we're meant to be doing by understanding their faith a bit more deeply. Jesus was Jewish, the first apostles who Jesus called. He called his 12, which we have as our gospel. They were all Jewish. So how do we understand this new covenant? We can't just throw out everything that comes before and say, well, I don't want to look there. Or this doesn't mean anything to me. That's not what Jesus is talking about. That's not what the early Christian community understood, what the new covenant was. The new covenant was founded upon this old covenant. Yes, it brought a new way of looking at things, but it didn't completely destroy what came before. Let us value, let us cherish the Jewish heritage that's part of our faith. Let us value and cherish the Old Testament. Let us look deeply into the New Testament and know that when we see passages, we're not just seeing Christians, we are seeing Christians who understood what it meant to be Jewish. Jesus calls the 12, but he calls 12 men who are Jewish, and that brings with it a certain connotation, a certain experience of faith and of life as well. Let us love this covenant that God has made with us. The covenant he made first of all with Abraham, with Moses, with all those in the Old Testament, and how he then created a new covenant that brought the old to a new context. It brought the old, didn't destroy the old, but brought this new way of understanding this relationship. Speaking of the new covenant, he implies the first one is already old. Anything old only gets more antiquated until in the end it disappears. We haven't got to the end yet. Let's not allow the old covenant to completely disappear, to be destroyed or eliminated from our understanding of the new covenant.